before Rosh Hashanah. A week from today will be Rosh Hashanah. That scares anybody. So as I mentioned, I'll be in Uman for Rosh Hashanah, and I'm happy to accept the kilos. Good luck. You just email them. All right? And I'll be happy to be your Shaliach Mitzvah. If you want to give some tzedakah for Pidyon Nefesh, I will be glad to do it. Yeah. All right, we are the two parshios that bridge this this important period is Ki Savo and Netzavim. And I wanted to speak about both of them as they have one theme that ties them together that's very connected to Rosh Hashanah. Now, the Moshe Rabbeinu, during his discourse, not the last day of his life, tells Klal Yisrael that they have to go over the Yarden and perform what really is a very unusual, and so I would call somewhat strange ritual. They are asked to pick up stones as they cross the Yarden. All right? How many sets of stones are they asked to pick up altogether?
One for each tribe.
12. Good. And what are we going to do with those stones? So let's go over this. He says, Shamor mitzvah asher nochi mitzaveh eskamayom. So it's almost like saying, listen, pay attention. What I'm asking you to do is not typical. Pay Shamor. It's going to require some careful watching. It says, V'haya bayom asher tavros yadim. The very same day that you cross the Yarden. El aretz asher Hashem elokecha nosen lecha v'akimos lecha avodim gedolos. You must pick up these big stones, not small stones, big stones. V'sadata osam b'sid, and you cover them with plaster. V'kasavta
with what?
plaster. Okay, which is itself kind of strange. That's why rocks are good. We know what's wrong with stones. Why put plaster on top of the rocks? Like, what is that? What's the point? V'kasavta leim is kol divrei Torah zos. Well, that might be the answer. If you want to write anything, it's hard to write on an unsmooth surface, so you make a smooth surface so you can write on the stones. Ve'avrecha, when you cross over. You don't write when you cross over a river. Okay. So what that la'avrecha means is something deeper. The avrecha means something I'm going to tell you later. Okay, hold on that for Charlie. Sorry, Charlie. Leman asher tavo el haaretz asher Hashem elokecha nosen lecha eretz zavad chalav u'dvash ka'asher diber Hashem elokei avosecha la. We started about it last week, but we'll deal with it now. You're going to need these stones in order to get to Eretz Yisrael and have it be an Eretz Zavad Chalav U'Dvash. Chalav U'Dvash is the metaphor for Eretz Yisrael, but it's an unusual one because it should be Sheva Minim, should be Ma'on Kodshecha, it could be a million things. It could be Yerushalayim, or referring to the Beit HaMikdash. What does it mean flowing with milk and honey? What is flowing with milk and honey? Important. Maybe I don't like milk.
Or honey.
Well, yeah. All right. Now, let's continue. V'haya ba'avrochem again. Ba'avrochem as a Yarden. When you cross over the Yarden, takimu as avonim ha'ela. You're going to set them up. Asher anochi mitzaveh eschem hayom. Bahar Eval. On the Mount Eval. Now, what's the other mountain? Har Gerizim. Which is the grassy one and which is the barren one? And Eval is the. Why would you set up the Aron on the bare one? Right? Let's have two. One on this one on that one. Everybody's split up anyway. So let's have an Aron on Eval. Let's have an altar on the barren mountain. Let's have an altar or just on the grass. I'd rather be on the grassy mountain.
Maybe the grass is taller and higher.
Well, I don't know. You've seen Har Gerizim, right? And then v'sadata otam b'sid, cover them over with plaster. Wait, we said that already. So what's being added here? Okay. Ubanis Hashem mizbeach Hashem. You have to build an altar of stones without any sword. Okay. And then you're going to bring olos, you're going to bring karbonos, and shlomim, and you're going to be happy. V'samachta lifnei Hashem Elokecha. Now here we go. Gasavta al ha'avonim kol divrei haTorah azos be'er heitev. You're going to have to write all the whole Torah in a very clear language on these stones. The whole Torah. Can you imagine?
Huge,
It's really huge, but not necessarily all the Torah, maybe just the titles.
If you were asked to take what part of the Torah which encompasses Kol HaTorah Kula, which would you choose? Yeah, the Aseret Dibros. So some Rishonim learn that that's exactly what it means. Because we know, according to Rabbi Gaon, all 613 mitzvos actually can be linked to one of the Aseret Dibros, which is a fun thing to do in the Shiur sometimes.
really?
Yeah. Rabbi Gaon wrote a sefer. There's something called Azharos that were traditionally read on Shavuos. There were compositions from the time of the Gaonim who were masters at that's Eliezer HaKalir, and everything comes from those early people who were like between the Gaonic and some say even as far back as the Mishnah. And they made these elaborate compositions filled with psukim from the Torah. But he did a book and said, okay, you can take it's called Sefer HaMitzvos Shel Rav Saadia Gaon. And what he did is he wrote a poem. It's really a poem. And it's a literature more than halacha. And he showed how each one is connected into the Sarasat Dibros. In the modern generation, a sefer was written about it, explaining and deciphering what he meant. Rabbi Kurlan of Minsk Rebbe wrote a sefer to decipher of Saadia Gaon's. But yeah, so let's see what Rashi has to say. Now, Beri Tev says Rashi 70 languages. So what? Jews speak 70 languages? They all spoke either Hebrew or Egyptian. Pretty much that was it. What?
Aramaic.
Yeah. Yes. At least some early form of it. Because we know that Targum Onkelos was given together with the Torah. That's our tradition. It doesn't mean I knew it yet, but there was some awareness and there's some overlap. Certainly. So what is going on over here? So Rashi deciphers this for us as follows. Then we have to understand it a little deeper. That
There is an opinion that it was a miraculous event.
right. The crossing of the Jordan itself was a miraculous event. Everything that happened crossing the Yarden for Yoshua happened like for Moshe Rabbeinu. The waters split. How did the Aron get across? Now they had an Aron. How did that Aron get across the water? It levitated across the water. The Kohanim were floating on air. That's what Chazal. These are no forshim on Tanakh. It's not like way out stuff. It's a basic idea. So now you understand why a stone to commemorate that crossing is very important, because it wasn't a regular crossing. It was a miraculous crossing, which shows that Hashem is right there helping you and behind you, right? And that you can expect miracles. You can expect miracles. So says Rashi, Chazal say, what does it mean you should set up these stones? In the Yarden, set them up in the river. Now the Yarden is a very small river. The whole thing is like a few amos wide. That's how Chazal says. You know that? It's like
Different places.
When I saw it, I couldn't believe it.
It means
It could have been bigger.
Surprising how
It could have been bigger.
sometimes when there's more water.
Chazal describe it as like 4 amos. 4 amos. What is it? 6 feet wide.
No, it's more than 6 feet.
I mean, 4 amos is 6 feet.
Maybe 12 feet.
Yeah. The Kitzur. So you stood them up, and then after you take those 12 stones and set them up, take another 12 stones and use those 12 stones to build an altar. Wait a minute, how do you build an altar? I thought you were supposed to write on them. So, Nimtzeis Omer, says Rashi, there were actually Shlosha Mine Avanim Hayim, 3 different types of stones. Shtei Masrei B'Yarden, 12 were set up in the Jordan itself. Ukenegdan Begilgal. Now, what's Gilgal? What's Gilgal? We didn't speak about Gilgal till now. Gilgal is the place where they set up the Mishkan. Immediately upon crossing, on that day, they had another miracle. They were able to travel, levitate, transport, whatever you want to call it, across the Jordan to Gilgal, which is just across, and then go all the way to Har Gerizim and Har Eval, which is substantially inland. How far would you say it is from Har Gerizim and Har Eval to the Jordan River? It's a distance. There's a distance there. How did they get there? Oh, and then they went back to Gilgal the same day. They did the ceremony and they went back to Gilgal. All that happened like almost instantaneously. So to mark that occasion, there were 3 different sets of stones. 3 to link the events. 3 in the Arden, 3 on the mountain, but only Har Eval, and 12 in Gilgal. What that does is it creates a three-way link. What is that three-way link supposed to mean? What's the point of it? Okay? So that's something we need to understand. What was this mitzvah that Moshe was trying to show them? It would seem that these 3 experiences are really one experience. Crossing the Yarden symbolizes what? Conquering Eretz Yisrael. Okay? Gilgal means that you can have Eretz Yisrael, but you still might not have a Mishkan or a Beis HaMikdash. Right? The in-between, between those 2, is Har Gerizim and Har Eval. So actually, Moshe Rabbeinu was giving them a visual map of what had to take place. All right? Okay. We have 3 points. 12 stones. In other words, there's some sort of covenant of the 12 tribes, represented by stones. Evan is a stone. Why is a stone important for 12 tribes? Why do you associate stones with 12 tribes? Why? Kosher Mishpat, there are 12 stones of the breastplate, right? And also, Yaacov Avinu took 12 stones, and they miraculously became 1 stone. And then what does he do with that stone? He sleeps on it, keeps his head there, right? And then in the morning, what happens? He turns it into the cornerstone of the base. I would like to suggest that what Moshe was doing here was paralleling that act, which foreshadowed this. Everything that happened, you say, Maisa Avos, Siman Labanim. What Yaacov did, what Yaacov experienced, was also kind of 3 steps. Number 1, he had a miraculous journey, right? He had a Kritzas Haderech that got him back to Eretz Yisrael from where? He had gone too far. He had gone all the way to the land of Lavan. And then he turned around to go back to Yerushalayim, and Yerushalayim came jumping to him. There was that miraculous time-space thing. Then he took the stones, and they combined them into 12, just like you build an altar out of 12 stones. He kind of built an altar out of 12 stones, on which his kepi rested. And then that became the cornerstone of the Mishkan. Is that clear?
So maybe the crossing is the entering into the
That's
land,
right.
and the placing into the center of the land represents having conquered the entire land,
Or something else.
or something else.
They didn't conquer the land at that point. It took 14 years. But something, maybe like you mark off your,
And Har Eval.
they say, your work is cut out for you, right? I mean, this is what we got to do, but now we got to go out and do it. But I like to suggest something a little. Let's try to match those things together, okay? Start with 12 stones in the Arden. What's the point of 12 stones in the Arden, please? But why in the Arden? It's a river. It's a river. It's the boundary. It's the entry into Eretz Yisrael. There is no entry into Eretz Yisrael unless all the 12 Shvatim are represented. Yachtos. Even the ones that are going to stay on the other side of the Yarden. That might have been a very powerful message too, saying just because 2.5 tribes are staying behind that doesn't mean that they're not fully part of this journey. And they were, because they had a promise to send people ahead. Remember we suggested that the people that went ahead were those guys who didn't die, the last
Marking
Tishba,
that boundary.
the last
seems-
15,000. What?
Marking that boundary with these stones seems to send the message that that is not part of Eretz Yisrael.
No,
On the other
it's the
side.
boundary that we're about to cross over, that we crossed over miraculously, which also is part of the message, you could say. Meaning, you're not going to conquer this. You're entering a land where nothing works based on your simple time, space, geography. Kfi says, Haderach means space is completely irrelevant. It also means that time, on a certain level, is irrelevant.
It's not natural.
It's supernatural. It's above. Okay? And then we got to do this thing with Har Eval and Har Gerizim. Har Eval, barren mountain. Why do we need a Mizbeach on a barren mountain? And why a barren mountain with a Mizbeach that's just built of these 12 stones without any sword? What does the sword represent?
War.
War. And who particularly? Esav. Right? Esav saying, no, this is our Yerusha. As much as Esav thinks it's his. And of course Yishmael too. But it's got to be built on a desolate mountain. Who thinks they know why it was built on a desolate mountain? Build it on the happy mountain. It says they were supposed to be happy there and bring olos and zvachim and everything good. It's like a mini Beis HaMikdash almost. But that's Gilgal. Gilgal is the place where we're going to be happy. That's what Samachta Lifnei Hashem. We have to go through something first. You understand? What's that transitional moment? It's a special bris. And it's a bris that has two aspects to it which are the same. One from Parshas Kisava, one from Parshas Nisavim. The first element of that covenant is the 11 curses of Moshe, which I'll call Moshe's 11. Lahavdil. You know, there's always this thing, Ocean's 11. I'm sorry. Moshe's 11. As we'll see, there were 11 curses that were recited on that mountain. And the way it was done, we'll get to that in a second. That bris was also called the bris of Arvus. Hey, ba'avrachem es ha-yardein. Ba'avrachem, when you become me'uravim zeh bazeh, together, just like the 12 stones came together. When you cross the Yarden, there was you were bound in a covenant. What were you bound with? You were bound with Hashem, which is why it had to be done in a way which was beyond man's power, because Eretz Yisrael is beyond a normal land. And the second thing is that you were bound together. For what purpose? For Har Gerizim and Har Eval, which means like this. You have a choice. We're all in this together, for good and for bad. We're in this, like they say, either we hang together or we hang separately. Right? Who said that? We'll either hang together or we're going to hang separately. You don't have a choice. But who said that? It's one of the patriots. It was I think one of the famous American revolutionary patriots. It'll come to me. Catch it. You can look it up. Somebody Google it right now. We either hang separately or we hang together. Nathaniel Hawthorne? Something like that. So, Moshe Rabbeinu was showing that there is a supernatural quality to Eretz Yisrael because it connects us to Hashem, who has no boundaries. Hashem is called Ein Sof. Ein Sof. And Hashem has another power which is called Chidush HaOlam, which very much connects to Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah. There are two things that God can do that we cannot. What are they? Well, first, He can create ex nihilo. He can create something out of nothing. Man can only create something out of something. And number two, He can renew His world. Hamechadish b'chol yom tuvo ma'aseh All his Masiyadai. What that means, according to our great philosophers, is that we are not like a creation, which Hashem, like a human creation, which once you build a house, the house is expected to stand until it falls apart, right? On its own power. No. Mistake. There is no power. The world, the reality on a deeper level is everything falls apart in an instant if Hashem doesn't renew it constantly, second by second, day by day.
That's what dust.
Indeed. It was Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin's comment at the time of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Wow. By the way, he is an interesting person, Benjamin Franklin. He had a lot of appreciation for Hebrew Jewish wisdom, as did a lot of the founding fathers. And he lived at a time which was very important for the Jewish people because that was the 1740. 1740s was the time where we know we crossed over into the day of the last 500 years of creation, the dawn. So that's why you have all these interesting characters popping up that were, I would call them messianic figures. Benjamin Franklin was certainly a messianic figure for America, because that was part of Mashiach, yes. He was what? He represented science and also communications. You know, he did all the experiments with electricity. Electricity was the key to all technology that would subsequently be exploited until today, where it's going so fast we don't even understand anything about it. But Chashmal, electricity, is a divine creation in that nothing can go faster than the speed of light. But nobody knew that until very recently, when they could shoot little molecules and attempt to break the light barrier. You know, man broke the sound barrier when we started intercontinental flight. What do they call it? What's the name for it? What's that? No, but yeah, the first one, they experimented with it, I think, in the 50s, maybe even in the 40s, I don't know, 40s, 50s, 60s. They were able to fly planes and you hear the sonic boom, which means that the plane actually was traveling faster than sound. Right, breaking the sound barrier. Man was able to break the sound barrier, then man went on to try to break the light barrier, failed, and will always fail. Because quantum mechanics and Einstein's theory proved that when things start to go as fast as the speed of light, they start slowing down. You cannot exceed the speed of light. A particle of light travels at 186,000 miles per second. Nothing in the universe can go faster than that.
I thought you were going to say that when we get anywhere near that, the material just disintegrates.
No, doesn't. It slows down. It'll reach the speed, you could reach the speed of 185,999 feet per second, but you can't go past that, no matter how hard they try. Why? Because Vayihi Or, Hashem created light. Hashem's presence in this world is symbolized by Or. He put in a marker, just like they put markers in the Yarden, saying, hello, there is a supernatural power that's in control. And guess what? You can be aligned with it. And you have a choice. You either be aligned with it, and your outcome is going to be Har Grizin. Or you can go against it, and your outcome is going to be Har Eval. And that's why we put the mountain, the altar on the mountain of Har Eval. Why? Because what are we afraid of? That people are going to do Averos, right? And go in the direction of Har Eval. So what do you need to do? You need to do Tshuva. And that's what the Mizbeach is for. It's for Kapara. And all of Klal Yisrael, as we said, are me'uravim. We are one aggregate being. Isn't that scary?
That's a bit
Now, it's like Siamese twins. What's that?
hard to believe with
Okay,
the
but-
elections.
We'll get to that in a second. No, but that is exactly my commentary on that, is that Hashem is making a grand joke. This is a colossal joke, the elections. It's impossible for anything to move to create unity. Do you know that? There's no way. I don't want to go into political details, but parties on the left can't sit with parties on the right for ideological reasons. They're anti-religion, it's pro-religion. The Arabs can't sit because of their own problems, but the Arabs will support, but then they need Lieberman. Lieberman can't sit with either one. Can't sit with either one. You know why he can't sit with the Gantz alone? Because then his constituency will kill him that he went in the direction of the Arabs. He can't sit with Likud alone. You know why?
The army.
Because he made the issue. He developed and he stoked the sinas chinam against the Haredim, which he sat with for how many governments and how many years? All of a sudden he woke up and said, I've got to destroy the delicate status quo, which is what they try to nuance as what's known as the Jewish democratic state of Israel. Okay? And I have a lot to say about that. I told you about Rabbi Goren. Okay. That relationship, I'll just give you an earmarker. The Goren-Gurian relationship is the model.
Is what?
Is the only model. And I'm going to give lectures about this. I told David Mars I want to speak about this. Goren-Gurian is the model of a possible Jewish democratic state, as long as the Jewish comes first. You understand? It's not a democratic Jewish state. That's what the left wings want to say. It's a democratic state. The most of the
They
people
have
are
to go
Jews.
into their own units, the Haredim. They have to go into the.
Never. It will not work. It's not. It
They're
has not.
starting to do it.
They're doing it, but ultimately that's not the answer, because the barrier remains, because those guys are like a separate army, and then there's a ceiling of when they want to rise to commander levels, even in the Hesder, which is much more integrated. You don't see those yarmulkes rising to the top. By now, there should have been a Kippur Suga commander of Joint Chiefs of Staff. By now, after 70 years. 70 years? It's not happening. Why? Because there's... I don't get into politics, but I just want to say this. When the secular Jews, if they are Jews, the secularists, assuming that they're of Jewish halachic identity, respect the fact that they live in a land that belongs to Hashem, and that you have to respect it, and you have to give homage to it, and that's really the whole thing of this week's parsha. It's an unbelievable chiddush. It's an unbelievable chiddush, and this is very important. It's maybe the most important thing I've said to you ever. There's a difference in the bris between the visible and the invisible. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted this ceremony, which would only take place after his death, okay, which is in Parshat Netzavim. Parshat Netzavim is from the last day of Moshe's life. From there on, we're talking about Zayin Adar till the end of the Torah. Okay, got that? Not Kisavim, but Netzavim is Zayin Adar, who was given over on the last day of Moshe's life, starting from there. And he said to him, okay, now, remember I told you about Har Gerizim and Har Eval? We're now going to you're going to enter a bris on that day of Arvus. There's a lot halachically relevant to this. For example, I can make Kiddush for you, right? And you don't have to say Kiddush. It's a mitzvah to say Kiddush. Why don't you have to do it yourself? Because on certain mitzvos, I can do it, and you'll say Amen, and you've joined me in the mitzvah. How does that work? It only works if we're fundamentally connected. You understand? If we're not fundamentally connected, then you have to do your own mitzvah. Certain mitzvahs, like I can't put on tefillin for you. You can't say, okay, that might be a good thing for a lot of, people will save a lot of money. The rabbi gets up here, it's fine. In Europe, they would find like one lulav and esrog. I'm not joking. The Rebbe would get a little Vanessa, because, especially during the bad years of persecution, that's what it was. And everybody came to Benchel. Do you know what they say? That the Kloisenberger Rebbe had one little Vanessa, had one pair of tefillin. And every single day, hundreds of Jews would come and put on his tefillin. You know what that experience was? They bound themselves to the life of the Tzaddik. Now, let me go very deep here. You ready? That was what Moshe Rabbeinu was looking to accomplish. Yaakov Avinu's head, laying on those stones, symbolizes the key point of the bris of Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, you know what? I don't want to skip ahead too much. It says, Hanistaros, Haniglos Lanavanenu, right? Hanistaros are Lashem. Haniglos Lanavanenu Adlon. So let's read it properly. Hold on. It's Netzavim. And it has little dots over it in the Torah because it's actually a very controversial thing. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted Klal Yisrael to accept full responsibility for each other, even for their secret actions. Even for what was not visible to anyone. What they did was seser, what they did in the privacy of their own home. Right?
That was what the altars that they did?
That's what Moshe wanted them to accept.
Not
But
to
they
do that.
didn't. They said, we'll only accept things that are visible to the naked eye. If I look through the window and the guy's serving an idol, okay, fine. But things that are not easily discoverable, such as intimate relationships that happen, behind closed doors, that are not discussed, or acts of hurting a person or mocking a person that are really not visible to the naked eye, I want you to be responsible for that too. How can I be responsible? So Klal Yisrael pushed back, and they said to Moshe Rabbeinu, no, we don't accept that, because how could we possibly be that responsible? I can accept the things I can see, but I can't accept the things that are unseen. How could Moshe even want them to do that? How could Moshe have even wanted them to? The answer is the head of Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu was such a tzaddik that he pulls out the evil out of everybody. If you're wearing the tefillin of the Kloisenberger Rebbe in Auschwitz, so he was in Auschwitz, he was in Berlin, where was he? Where else? Then you're just on a different plane than another worker. You've bound yourself to this tzaddik's tefillin. You have a way to get through that day. You have a path through that darkness. Just what did the stones say? What did the stones say to each other? Who remembers the Rashi that you learned in first grade? What did the stones all say?
Each one wanted to be.
I want to have the tzaddik lie on me. The kepi of the tzaddik. I want to put the tefillin of the Kloisenberger Rebbe on. No, I want to put the tefillin of the Kloisenberger Rebbe on. Because Moshe Rabbeinu was actually, how shall I say, embedding himself into Klal Yisrael. Do you understand what happened here? Moshe Rabbeinu on the last day of his life says, okay, here I come. I'm coming into you. You're all going to be bound, and you're going to be bound